Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Literally My Life, My Guide to Girlhood. Guys, this is my Sweet 16 episode. Guys, this is my 16th episode. I cannot believe I have been doing this podcast for 16 weeks. Oh my goodness. This has been the best 16 weeks of my entire life. I'm not even trying to be cheesy or corny. Just like starting this podcast has been so life changing and so amazing. And I love doing it. I'm never going to stop doing this podcast. I'll be like 50 and still recording. I'm not even kidding you guys. And I'll probably go through like a million titles and reinvent myself a million times because I'm a mirror ball. But I really love doing this. I have the best job in the entire world. So again, welcome. And I again, thank you to everybody who listens every week. You know, everybody who just tunes in every week. I'm so happy and so grateful to be able to do 16 episodes. Wow. Um, okay, so today's episode is going to be titled He's Just Not That Into You. And I decided to do this episode after last week's episode on the advice column. I literally was hearing so much craziness about guys on that. I was just hearing so much I feel like a lot of the advice had to do with guys. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do an episode that's kind of related to that, called He's Just Not That Into You. And in this episode we're gonna kind of explore like my experience with guys. I'm gonna tell you guys some stories that I have with guys, some stories I have like my friends have with guys, or like things I've observed or noticed over the years with guys. And I'm going to talk about basically kind of like the general rules to dating because I feel like if I can reinvent myself from being, who I was freshman year to me, like almost senior year now, and having, not a perfect love life, but not going through crap anymore, like having a peaceful one. How about that? Um, you can too. So let us get started. I'm so excited. Let's get into it. Okay. So there's so many things to talk about in this, but let's just cover some basic things. Okay, I'm going to start with like some basic things. Okay. One thing I want to say is that if a guy doesn't like you, there's nothing you can do to change his mind. I know I'm like coming in like hot and heavy and you're like, "Whoa, girl, it's like 2 minutes in," but it's the truth. If a guy doesn't like you, there's nothing you can do to change his mind. Let me tell you how I know this. And okay, I feel like we also have this like really bad misconception on social media that's like, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna post a picture and he's gonna see how hot I am and he's just gonna like be like, what am I doing? And come back to me." And that's not what it is because he knows what you look like. He knows who you are. He knows you're pretty. He doesn't want to be with you. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. I used to think it was like the end of the world if a guy did not like me. I'm going to tell you guys a story. Okay. This first story. This is going to be like a story time episode. Great. I feel like a YouTuber, although I'm much cooler. Okay. I was going out with this redhead, and this guy, I liked him so much. I thought he was so cute. We went out for like 6 weeks or whatever. Well, he broke up with me. And that was like the first time I think I'd ever been dumped. And it was so terrible because he dumped me over text and he dumped me at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was absolutely catastrophic. Not catastrophic as I was like super, super upset or like just didn't know what to do with it. But I was hurt. I had a little moment. I cried a little bit and I got together. So, me being 14 years old at the time, I decide that once I finish crying, I'm going to do my makeup and put on a cute outfit. You know what? Great. Good for me. You know what? Do what you have to do to make yourself feel better after a breakup. I put on this really cute outfit. I start to look really good. And I have my mom take pictures of me that night. And my mom takes pictures of me and I post them that night that he dumped me. And I use the caption. And if you follow me on Instagram, if you scroll like all the way down, I think it's like my second post. I'm in this like tan crop top, and the caption is like his loss, but he loses a lot anyway, which was hilarious looking back at it. Petty, but absolutely hilarious. And he actually ended up liking that. I'm not even kidding you. He liked that post, which was so I know he saw it, which was the funniest thing. So I'm like thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness, now that I've posted, and he sees what I look like, you know, he's just gonna be falling over me, just so obsessed. And nothing happened. Nothing happened because he knew what I looked like. He knew I was pretty. He called me pretty, the whole time we were going out. He, liked, what I looked like. That's not what he didn't like about me. He just didn't want to be with me anymore. And, looking back at it, the little 6-week fling ran its course. He lived in the suburbs. I live in Chicago. He was 2 years older than me. We didn't have any mutual friends. Like it was never really gonna work out. Um, but I was really hurt about that, and I had the right to be hurt about that, despite it like not being logical. I was thinking with my heart, and it hurt. Anyways, moral of the story is there was nothing I could do at that point to get him to like me because he had just fallen like he lost feelings, and that's okay. And the reason I keep reiterating that it's okay is because it happens. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you any less of a woman. It doesn't make you unlovable. It doesn't decrease your worth or your value in any kind of way. It happens. Guys, they could just stop having feelings for you. And honestly, looking back at it, I respect him so much more that he lost feelings and decided to break it up with me rather than, keep me around and cheat on me or lie to me or, manipulate me or, put me through so much hell. He was mature enough to tell me about his feelings and end things before he hurt me. And although that did hurt me, I'm so much like happier that he did that instead of like cheating on me or something like that. So I actually do deeply respect that. But not every guy's like that. Most guys aren't like that actually. Most of the time, in my experience, guys will continue to date you after they've lost feelings just for the comfort. A guy can, date you for 2.5 years and only liked you for 6 months. You know what I mean? And they will continue to be with you for a comfort because they know your stability. That doesn't mean they love you. Like, I feel like people get that confused. And the reason I say this is because I'm chronically online. I'm always on my phone. If you know me, you know that I'm always on my phone. And I just read like TikTok comments or Instagram comments and I just see these things that are like, oh, he always comes back because he knows where home is. You're not his home. You're like the shelter he can run back to when he gets kicked out of the house he wants to be at. How about that? Because that's what it is. I don't understand why people think it's a flex to have a relationship. Now, okay, every situation is different. I will absolutely acknowledge that. I'm not speaking for everybody, but I don't understand why people think it's a flex to have a relationship or to be in a relationship with a guy who leaves you and continues to come back to you. That does not mean he loves you. That does it actually means the opposite. Like he doesn't love you. He just knows that you're going to take him back. And I'm going to use an analogy, okay? This is very different, but I'm going to compare my current living situation to an on and off relationship. Follow me here. Just follow me. Let me talk. Let me cook. Let me cook. Okay. So I'm moving out next year. I'm going to college. I don't know where yet, but I'm moving out. I plan on going out to college out of state. But I know, I'm excited to move. I'm really excited to move and get out of Chicago, because I've been here my whole life. But I know that if something were to go wrong, I was to run out of money or something terrible were to happen, God forbid, I could run and live with my mom again. I could run back to Chicago and move right back into my bedroom and live in my mom's house and have no issue. I know I could do that. And that's what is happening in your relationship. He, doesn't want to stay, with you, just the same way I don't really want to stay at my mom's house. Not that I don't love my mom, but he doesn't love you. Um, I'm just saying, it's my second choice. It's a backup plan, and that's what you are. You're a backup plan, and that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. I mean, just think of this. Just think of this. I saw this TikTok one time. It changed my entire perspective. I feel like the sprinkle girl. But it changed my entire perspective. It was like, that guy that's always in your DMs and the one that keeps texting you and, the one that you're never going to get a chance and he slides up on all your stories and you just think he's annoying. Yeah, that's how the guy you want feels about you. And it's so true. Like, if you think about it that way, you're like, oh my God. Like, he feels like I'm one of those, like, annoying people that slide up on your Instagram. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. That's another thing. I will never, ever, and you guys cannot either, too. Like, it has to stop. We are not begging people to like us anymore. We are not doing it. We are wonderful. And that comes with, like, liking yourself. Once I started to really do some deep soul searching and really get to like myself, my romantic life completely changed. Completely. Because I know what I'm worth and I know what I'm not going to put up with. Like, personally, I think I'm the crap. I think I'm all that in a bag of chips, okay? I think that I don't have to compete with another girl for a spot because if you're with me, you're a pretty lucky guy. I think I'm great. And I think I think I reflect that in my attitude. Um, and because of my way of thinking, if I were to, little things, I just don't tolerate anymore. And I feel like that's what's led me to have such a peaceful love life. So I don't have to beg guys to like me anymore. Here's another story number 2. Okay. I was seeing this guy. We weren't dating, we weren't doing anything, but I was seeing this guy. And I met him my freshman year of high school. And he was supposed to take me out. And he would promise to take me out and then never show up and do this over and over again. I'm not even kidding you. And I got so frustrated. And we were supposed to hang out a couple of times and he never came. And he has a car. He can drive. If he really wanted to, he would have. But he didn't because he didn't want to. And I got to be, I think it was my sophomore year it was the summer before junior year. And I just realized, he keeps snapping me. He keeps coming back to me. He won't talk to me for months and then snap me again and lead me on and whatever. Because I keep letting this happen. Like, he's never going to show up. He's never going to be the guy I really want him to be. He kind of sucks. He's lucky anyway that he gets to talk to me. And that's what your attitude needs to be. And I cut him off. And I never looked back. And he has texted me a couple of times saying, he made a mistake and he's ready to take me seriously or he really wants to do this or whatever. But I'm not Carrie and you're not Mr. Big. Like, I'm not going to be Carrie. Like, another thing that will change your mind, watch Sex in the City and look at how you relate to Carrie. And if you relate to Carrie and Mr. Big, run. You should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed of yourself. No, but I was like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. This guy is putting me through all kinds of hell. Well, not even hell, but it was just like he was disappointing me all the time. And why am I giving him so many chances to disappoint me? Why am I putting myself out there? You have to look at yourself, like, not, oh, well, he keeps doing this to me. Like, yeah, I hate that he's doing it, but why do I keep putting myself out there for him to hurt me? You know what I mean? And even though it wasn't that serious of a situation, like compared to other things I've been through, I couldn't deal with it anymore. So I cut the guy off. I haven't talked to him since. He's texted me a couple of times. He snaps me occasionally, and I open them, and I don't respond because he will never get a response out of me again. I'm not even kidding you. He was the biggest waste of time. He had all of that time to enjoy my loveliness. And he didn't. And that's his loss. And that's how you have to look at things. I think, and that's why I say it all goes back to how you think about yourself. I think I'm a nice person. I think I'm a beautiful girl inside and out. And I think that if I've given you a chance to experience that and you took advantage of it in any kind of way, you're not going to get that chance again because you took advantage of me. And I'm not saying, like I said, everything is different. Every situation is different. But in that instance, whatever. If if you're in a similar situation, you're with a guy who keeps disappointing you, he says he's going to show up or he doesn't or whatever, stop. Stop letting him do that. You have to stop putting yourself out there to be hurt by someone who continues to hurt you. I heard this in a J. Cole song and I'll say it. Fool me one time, shame on you. You fool me, I can't get fooled again. And that's been that's why we don't backslide. We're going to get into that in a second. But that became my mindset. Like, you know what? He fooled me once. He's not going to fool me again. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I got sick of it. I got sick of putting up with it. So I cut him off. And that was that. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about sex. Okay, I try not to talk too much, despite, sex being probably the biggest thing teenagers talk about. I try not to talk about it too much on this podcast because it's kind of irrelevant to a lot of the things I talk about. But teenagers, obviously it's no secret teenagers have sex. We're in high school, we're juniors in high school now, so come on. But guys are so much worse than they used to be. They're so much worse than they used to be when it comes to sex. And when I say that, I feel that guys have become so entitled because of the way hookup culture has got, that they think they can sleep with you after just meeting you, which is awful. Now, okay, I let me think of it. Okay, I have a good story. Story number 3. I was talking to a guy very briefly right before I went to LA in March. And I didn't even think he was cute. I wasn't even attracted to this guy. But I was trying to try out something new because I feel like I always date for looks. So I was like, okay, I'm going to date for personality, right? I start literally texting this guy and everything's going good. Everything's going good. And we were supposed to hang out and we didn't even end up hanging out because he got like on punishment, which is whatever. Like, I'm not mad about that. But okay. When I got back from LA, we were texting again, and I just noticed his responses started to get a little drier, and I feel like it was because I was dodging the conversation of sex. Because have you guys ever heard, I'm sure you guys all hear that line, like, oh, like, so when we hang out, what are we gonna do? And I always act so clueless when I get asked that. I always act so clueless. I'm always like, oh, like, I don't know, like, maybe we can get, like, ice cream with, like, sprinkles? Because I don't want to answer, the question like, well, we're definitely not having sex. It's our first date. And this is my thing. I am not judging people who have sex on the first date. I've known people who had sex on the first date and they're married now. I kid you not, I know couples like that. It does not guarantee, that your relationship is perfect or doomed. Sex on the first date really does not matter to adults. To teenagers, it does. It does. I promise you, because we're at that age where, guys think with their downstairs area. Women, we think with our heads. They think with, their friends. And it's awful. And so they're just trying to see how many women they can sleep with and how easy it can get. Which is awful. I am not condoning what they do. I think that is actually awful. I can't speak for men. This is my guide to girlhood, okay? This is not... I don't know what to talk about when it comes to them. But I think as a society, we need to make it much harder for guys to sleep with us. I'm sorry, I'm going to be the first one to say I don't agree with hookup culture. I don't agree with it. This guy, he's texting me, and maybe a week after I got back from LA, I made some kind of like Megan Thee Stallion joke. It was kind of funny. It was like a little sexual. It was whatever. And he thought that I was going to sit up there and like trade with him and do all this. And I'm like, and I said straight up to him, like, we haven't even been out yet. You haven't even taken me out. You think I'm going to just let you see me naked? Are you crazy? And, he cut me off. Like, not like he blocked me or anything, but we don't talk. And that's okay. We don't have to talk. That's fine. The reason I'm not upset about that, because I wasn't attracted to him. But I'm also not upset about that because I don't need someone in my life who thinks that, he's not going to like me if I don't sleep with him. Okay, then you don't have to like me. I'm not going to sleep with you and I just met you. I'm not going to do it. I think hookup culture is ridiculous. I think it is ridiculous because the reason I say it's ridiculous is because we're 16, 17 and guys are only thinking about sex. And for women to just continue to give them sex and then think that they will like them, that's not how it works. There's a saying I love. Why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? And that's what guys are thinking. Why would a guy date you, buy you flowers, take you on dates? Because think of it as like a 50-50 agreement, right? I, as a woman, want you to claim me as your girlfriend. I want you to take me on dates. I want you to buy me flowers, post me, just do all the relationship stuff with me. And you, as a man, probably want, you might want a relationship and me to come to your games or something like that, and sex. Sex will always be on that list with a guy. Might not always be on our list as a woman, but it'll always be on their list. So, in order for you to get the sex, I have to get the relationship first. I'm sorry. And that has always worked with me. I can't do not. If a guy really likes you and he propositions a little sex thing and you're like, "Oh, I don't have sex unless I'm with like a guy and he's my boyfriend," watch how fast he'll date you. I'm not even saying that that's a 100% success rate, but it's worked for me every single time. So, but like, it's not even about like the goals being in a relationship or the goal is this or whatever, because I've been single for probably a year and a half now, probably a year now, almost a year, and it's been great. I've had a really great time being single. I've actually really, really enjoyed it. Um, but yeah, when it comes to sex, you let it go. You don't you don't give it so easily. You know what I mean? I think that's what we have to do. Because we're women, we hold the power. The guys do not hold the power. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, if he doesn't get it from me, then he's gonna get it from somewhere else. Crap. That's so crap. If he wants to sleep with someone else, she's gonna go through the hell that you are avoiding. I'm not sleeping with him because I don't want him to use me, so he's going to go use another girl. Okay, fine. Let her go through the hell that I don't want to go through. That's her issue, not mine. Um, Another thing that I don't understand. Okay, I have a better, looking back at it from the other side, I have a better perspective. I can say it now as like a healed girly, because guys, I forgot to tell you guys, I'm like over my ex. I know. We used to talk about him so much. And now the references will be spare. But I don't understand. Well, okay, I understand. But I hate that so many people think it's the end of the world when you and a guy are over. Because it's not. It feels like it, and it can feel like that for months. It can feel like that for years. For me, it felt like that for years. But it's not. It's not. Because something will happen, something in hindsight will happen that will change your perspective on that. And for me, it was meeting someone else. I am not seeing anyone. I'm not talking to anyone. I'm not dating anyone. Please don't start this with me because I know more and more people are starting to listen to this. But I met someone a while ago. And when I was talking to this guy, he was just so incredibly kind to me. And, he's such a big heart and he's just a really nice kid. Um, and he just did probably in a couple of weeks what I waited on my ex to do for 2.5 years, which was love me properly. And that opened my mind and it kind of took off my rose colored glasses and I was able to see him for who he really was. And I don't think he's a bad person. I do not hate him. I do not wish any ill will on him. I hope he gets everything he's ever wanted and I have to hear nothing about it. I I don't want I can't look at him in the same way because I was romanticizing him in my head. Even after everything he put me through, because he put me through so much. Um, I can't. Once those rose colored glasses, I took them off and I saw him for who he was. I stopped romanticizing him and I realized it's not the end of the world because, he lost. And that's what you have to say to yourself. He lost a girl who was down for him. I was 100% down for him. I was absolutely in love with him. I was willing to change my whole life around just to be with him. Do anything I could to make a relationship work. He had an absolute loyal girl who's crazy about him, who kind of checks off all of their boxes. I'm somebody's dream girl. And I lost a guy who really didn't care about me. Not only did he not care about me, but he didn't want to be with me, and he was just, hurting me, hurting me, hurting me. And I just lost somebody who wasn't loyal or faithful or even kind at one point. So he lost, $100 and I lost maybe like a penny. I'm okay with, the rest of my money. um, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world if something happens and you and him don't work out. Even if you did love him. Because I loved, that guy I always talked about. I was absolutely and utterly in love with him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have a whole thick book of beautiful poems I wrote about this guy, talking about how beautiful he was as a person, his internal beauty, his external beauty, how much I loved him. I wrote a big, thick stack of poems about him. That's how you know I love you, when I write a good poem about you. And we didn't work out, and it broke my heart for years. But it wasn't the end of the world then, and it's not the end of the world now. I used to think, oh my God, I lost my soulmate. My soulmate wouldn't treat me like that. My friends and family wouldn't hate my soulmate. Uh, People wouldn't be begging me not to text my soulmate. I mean, come on. You have to see it for what it is. And once you can accept the reality of a situation, it's so much easier for you to move on. I promise you, you did not lose your soulmate. That guy was not your soulmate. Your soulmate, I think, you know how they say when you know, you're gonna know. And you didn't know with him. You thought you knew. You didn't know. You didn't know. Okay, this one might be a tad bit controversial, but I don't understand how you can be publicly embarrassed by a guy and then you can run back to him. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand that. I have been publicly embarrassed once by a guy. It was in the 7th grade. I kind of put myself out there with this guy. It blew up in my face, but it was wrong. I made a mistake there. I was wrong. It blew up in my face, rightfully so. And I was completely embarrassed. When I got to high school, it happened again, but this time I don't feel like I deserved it. There was like no karma. There was a guy, and he tried to embarrass me. I feel like he tried to, and he didn't, because I cut it off before it got any worse. I had basically just like heard these rumors that this guy that I, kind of thought was cute and was just like saying hi to every day was like making things seem like it wasn't, like it was something it was not, and just feeding into a lot of like inappropriate rumors and just like saying stuff about me. And I didn't care. Like, I wasn't thinking to myself, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to let him like embarrass me and talk about me because he's so cute and he's like so popular. No, I was like, I'm not going to be embarrassed. Like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. Like, we're not doing that again. Well, I ended up cutting him off there. It ended there. I haven't talked to him since, and I've had a great last couple of years. So maybe, there were a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff happened after that. I'm not blaming him. I'm not talking about him. Because half of that wasn't his fault, half of it wasn't. But I feel like we both moved on with our lives, and I think we both did a really good job at doing it. The reason I bring it up, though, is because he had gotten a girlfriend, maybe a couple of months afterwards, and she was somebody that I considered like, I didn't know her very well, but we got along and we were like friends or whatever. So we're friends, and she starts dating him. Okay. I didn't care about that. What became the issue was she started to talk about me. So I was hearing stuff like she was saying, oh, Alex is so jealous of what I have, and she's so jealous of our relationship, and she's so insane, and she's so obsessed with him. And, I was just hearing nasty things that she was saying about me all the time. And, in hindsight, looking back now, if I had the perspective I have now that I had then, like that, if I had it then, I wouldn't have cared. I would have let her continue to talk and whatever. But like, I cared at the time because I was just like mad. I was going through a lot in my personal life. And I feel like she was just adding fuel to the fire, and just making things a whole lot worse than they had to be. Well, a couple of months pass and they're still dating. I'm still trying to get my life together. And it becomes like this big thing that he cheats on her. And I hear about it. A lot of my friends hear about it, and they're like, oh, you see, Alex, da, da, da. And we were talking about it, and I didn't want to laugh because it wasn't funny, and I'm not trying to laugh at her or poke fun at her. But okay, this is the moral of the story. They got back together after there was like a cheating scandal. I can't remember like the timeline, but I know they got back together. I know it was like, I know that at least because I have eyes everywhere. And I remember being so confused because I was just like, well, why would they get back together if, he cheated on her? And, I know every situation is different. I'm not going to sit here and trash one person or trash another because, sometimes cheating rumors aren't true. In this case, it was, but I'm not trying to I'm not dissing anyone who's listening, like, oh, well, I've taken my boyfriend back and he's cheated on me because, you're not a bad person for that. I don't understand the logic behind it. Because if someone loves you, they're not going to cheat on you. They're not going to especially publicly. Like, that is the worst thing. I don't know. I think I've said it before. I have like the biggest, deepest fear of embarrassment. I am so terribly afraid of being embarrassed. I hate being embarrassed. So I don't understand. Like, I just remember thinking, I just don't understand it. And okay, so to finish off the story, they got back together. And I just thought that was insane, like from the outside looking in, because I obviously thought it was insane for like other reasons, but I thought it was mostly insane because if someone cheats on you, you don't get back with them because people do what you allow them to do. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but people do what you allow them to do. So if you cheat on, like if you let a guy cheat on you and then you're like, I'm going to take you back and give you another chance, that gives them the green light in their head. They're like, okay, I can cheat on her and she's going to take me back. They start to lose respect for you. They're like, you know what? She's going to take me back. Like, I can basically do whatever, because cheating is the highest form of disrespect. And it says in his head, I can cheat on her and I can get her back. So I can do whatever I really want. I can be in a relationship without having to be committed and be loyal to my relationship. Stop. And that's what a guy's thinking about you when you take him back for cheating. And I don't know. I'm just so disgusted by the thought of cheating. I can't. I don't understand it. I've personally never been cheated on. But I have a lot of really close friends who have been cheated on. And my friends, except for the story that I'm telling, they've all left their partners after they've been cheated on because it's unforgivable. And I know you might be like, oh, well, he said he loved me or he was drunk or he made a mistake. Those are excuses. Like, being drunk is not going to impair his... Like, girl, he wanted to cheat on you sober. He just used drunk as an excuse. Well, okay, so to end off the story, so they get back together and, like I said, because he has the green light in his head that he can continue to cheat, he does. And he continues to cheat and he continues to cheat and everybody just knew about it and that's when I like kind of just was like, okay, this is not okay. And I just felt so like it's just so sad to see people go through stuff like that. Like I've had really close like I had another friend and she had the worst boyfriend in the entire world and he did everything but cheat on her, ironically. But he did everything else. Every horrible thing a guy can do, he did, except cheat on her for some reason. And it would just be so sad. Like, I'm sure everybody's been in that situation where it's like, it's been so sad to watch your friends or even watch yourself, like, get that low and because you're forgiving and forgiving and forgiving. And I read something one time that said, you're going to forgive and forgive and forgive until you hate him. And, that might work. It worked with me one time. It actually works. That might work. But to me, now I hate you after the first time. Like, if I trust you, and we become a couple and I fall for you and you fall for me, and you go out and you choose to disrespect our relationship, you disrespect me, and I can't tolerate that disrespect. How can I be with somebody who doesn't respect me or my boundaries or our relationship? Like, you have to think logically, and I feel like that's the issue. Like, we're thinking with our hearts too much. So they get back together and he continues to cheat and he continues to cheat and everyone knows about it. And, it's like becoming mainstream gossip. And I felt just so bad, like as I would for anyone. It's so sad to see. They ended up not together. They ended up breaking up and it was it was just sad to see. And I remember hearing from, heard it through the grapevine. I heard that the reason she was staying with this guy was because, she thought he was totally cute and like the cutest guy she's ever going to be with. And he's the most athletic, just whatever qualities he had, which is so sad. That is actually so sad. I don't understand that at all. When I was like 14, I went out with this guy who was 6'5", and I remember I would like did not want to leave him alone because he was 6'5", and I thought for some reason I couldn't find another guy who was 6'5", which is ridiculous. Like, I've met guys who are almost like 7 foot and didn't act nearly as stupid as he did in the first place. I can't believe that, something so shallow like height, even though I'm a tall girl, was such a big deal to me. It was such a big deal. And I don't know. I could not ever think that way again. And I hope you don't think that way. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh, I'm going to, tolerate this guy because he's the most good looking guy I've ever met, or he's the smartest guy I've ever met, or whatever he has. That's so ridiculous. Like, I cannot ever fathom the idea of staying with a guy because he has something that probably a million other guys do. And that's probably the same way he thinks about you. Like, do you think he's going to stay with you because he thinks you're like pretty? Like, he's like, no. There's so many other pretty women in the world. There's so many pretty women of like different ethnicities and different body types and live in different states and come from different backgrounds. And that's the way he's thinking. He's not thinking, oh, there's only one of you. No. So don't think that way about him. A little bit back to the cheating thing. It's like a boundary. Cheating has to be a boundary. If you get cheated on, do not allow like the stories that use that as a precaution, as a guideline. Like, you do not want to end up like that. You do not want to be seen as like a public embarrassment, or like you're letting a guy dog you for the sake of a relationship that he doesn't respect. A relationship is a two-way street. If you don't respect our relationship, I don't respect our relationship, we're not going to be in a relationship. It's that simple. And, we always are, as women, I think a big issue, and I heard this on Divorce Court, I'm not even kidding, was that we have this way of thinking that once we meet a guy and we totally fall for him and we invest enough time and energy, despite us being so young, we will stay because of how much time and energy we've invested. I've been with him for 2 years. I've known him so many years. I've known him since I was 8 or 9, and I'm just going to try to make our relationship work. And that's ridiculous. We're so, especially at this point that we are in our lives, we are so young. You have the way to reinvent yourself, and no one is going to ever know about your high school boyfriend. No one is ever going to know about your childhood crush because we're so young. You're about to go to college. You're most likely going to move to a different state, start a whole new life, meet somebody that you may possibly spend the rest of your life with. Do you think they're going to care about your high school partner? I mean, that is so ridiculous. Don't let something so small, even though it feels so big, hold you back. Another thing, if you have to guess if a guy likes you, he doesn't like you. A guy makes it very, very clear on his intentions when he first meets you. And if you're playing this guessing game, which I hate the guessing game. I've said it so many times. I hate the guessing game. If you have to guess whether he likes you or not, he doesn't like you. If he likes you, you will be able to tell. He will do things that you like. He'll go out of his way to make you laugh, to do things for you, to see you, to call you. If he really likes you, his phone getting taken away at 9 o'clock won't be an excuse. He'll sneak it just to call you, just to tell you good night. If he really likes you, him not having a car won't be an excuse not to see you. No, he'll take the bus. He'll take 2 trains and a bus to come see you. Ask me how I know. Because I've dealt with guys who really liked me and guys who didn't at all. And the guys, who didn't at all found excuses not to do things that I wanted. And the guys who really did, they made a way. So a guy will do what he wants to do. If he wants to, he will exist. I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm very sorry to break it to you. Okay, not last thing. Sorry. Because I've just thought of some other things. Another thing is that a guy will also, treat you how you, people will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And I say this because, it's true. I once had a guy who treated me like crap, and he treated me like crap because I kept allowing him to treat me like that. And it wasn't like a cheating situation. It wasn't anything like that. But he was just treating me like crap because I was letting him come back into my life and treat me like crap every time. People do what you allow them to do. And guys, they're always pushing those limits, testing your boundaries to see what they can and cannot slide by you. And, if it were up to them, they would be able to sleep with you, never call you again, never have to do anything with you, and be able to do that with the most hot women in the world, and they get their way. But, like I said, it's a 50-50 situation every single time. So people are going to treat you how you allow them to, which is why I've set a list of standards and a list of boundaries, and I don't lower those standards, no matter how good looking he is, no matter how great he is, athletic, tall, whatever. I don't lower those standards. And although I don't have the perfect love life, like, you're probably like, oh, well, you're single, like, you haven't had a boyfriend in a while, and I don't see. Okay, I may not have a perfect love life, but I have a pretty peaceful one. I'm not staying up at night crying about guys. I'm not waiting on callbacks. I'm not waiting for any of that. I'm not going through any of that. I have a pretty peaceful life because I don't deal with crap. I have a friend named Liv. I love her. She was at my house the other day, and she was telling me, once the flag even looks like a little orange, walk away. And that's my policy. Once the flag even looks a little orange, it doesn't even have to get red. Once it looks a little orange, walk away. We're not doing it anymore. We're too good. We're too old for that. We're about to be in our 20s. We're going to college. We don't have time for the guessing game. We don't have time to beg for callbacks. We don't have time to have sex thinking he'll like us. We don't have time to wonder why he doesn't like us. He doesn't like you. Okay, someone else will. You're somebody's dream girl the way that you are right now. The weight that you're at, the job that you're at, the school that you're at. You're somebody's dream girl. The way you look right now, you don't have to change. You're somebody's dream girl. And I didn't realize that until after I left that, crazy toxic relationship I was in. And I've explored independence and freedom. And it has been the best 2 years of my life. It has been absolutely amazing. I've been able to explore who I am and really get to know me and really fall in love with myself. And like I said, I don't have a perfect love life because I'm not like married, but I have a pretty peaceful one. And I think that's the goal at the end of the day. Okay, guys, I have rambled on for 41 minutes about why he's just not that into you. I hope this was a useful episode. I feel like it was much, much needed. If there's anything I missed, please let me know. I can absolutely do a part 2. So always let me know. Now that Literally My Life has an Instagram, you guys can always interact with me. We can always talk about things. I'm so excited to do this. I also was thinking, guys, do you guys want me to start doing video podcasts? Because I can do those. I know how to do those. Do you guys want me to do those, like, videos, like, you guys can watch me talk? Because I always get dressed up to do these, and you guys never get to see how good I look. No, I'm kidding. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm so glad. It's always so fun to make these episodes, and I will continue to do this until I'm on my deathbed. I really love you guys. Before we go, please follow Literally My Life to Girlhood on Instagram at Literally My Life MGTG. That's at Literally My Life MGTG on Instagram. Follow and put on your post notifications. I will definitely be interactive on there. We can talk about subjects that we could talk about, stuff I've missed on the podcast. You guys can always DM me, send me messages, whatever. Website is coming soon. I love, love, love everybody who listens every week. I want to thank everybody who listens every week. And if I missed anything this episode, if I left anything out, please send me a message on at Literally My Life MGTG. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.